Hi, everyone, and again, welcome to webinar number 5 on notifications. And in today's agenda, we will cover a quick review on thresholds. Then we will move into explaining the different types of threshold notifications, such as branch, environmental, outlet thresholds, and additional ones that can be set up from the PDU and their notifications. Finally, we will share what are some of the notification options our eConnect PDUs offer, such as log, traps, email, and login, along with helpful resources you can use to better help in your setup process. Let's take a look at thresholds. And today's webinar is a continuation of the thresholds webinar that we had a while back. So it's important to understand how these are linked to the notifications feature. Whenever setting up threshold values, the purpose is to alert on these configured thresholds against present metrics or readings from the PDU. We can configure these customizable values to trigger alarms and notifications when outside of their range. This provides visual representation of operating, warning, and critical voltage and load ranges conditions of all branches and PDU units, as well as visual representation of operating, warning, and critical ranges conditions of temperature and humidity sensors, and also outlets if the PDU has that available. Also, these can be set up via the web GUI, the CLI, and bulk API according to your customer's needs. To learn more about thresholds or to review the webinar, you can visit our CPI Power University On Demand webinar number 3. Now that we've reviewed what thresholds are and their purpose, let's go ahead and add it all together by understanding threshold notifications. As mentioned before, customizable values can be added to trigger alerts and notifications. Let's take branch thresholds as an example. Here we can add alerts for critical and warning values. The image on this slide is showing an example of a PDU with one single branch from the web GUI. If you're adding the values from the web GUI, make sure to click Save after adding them. If the PDU has more than one branch, there is a button that lets you copy the values from another branch to make it easier to add the settings. Next, you'll want to visit the routing section and find the branch notification section. It will show you all the events that can be alerted or notified. Notice here, it shows both voltage and current notifications for critical and warning events. In a similar way, threshold values can be added for temperature and humidity for critical and warning events. It's as simple as adding the respective temperature number and humidity percentage you want to receive alerts on. Once these values are saved, you can move on to routing, selecting the type of notification and event you would like to receive alerts on. In Monitored Pro eConnect PDUs and Switch Pro eConnect PDUs, outlet current thresholds can also be set up in the web GUI. Customizable values can be added for critical and warning events, and it also includes a button to copy values from a specific outlet. Once these values are saved, you can move on to routing and find the outlet current notification section. Here, you can select the event and type of notification you wish to enable for outlet information. Additionally, there are other events in the PDU that can be tracked besides thresholds. These are PDU firmware updates, configuration changes, receptacle changes, also the system reboot, if it's going to a reboot, if the PDU has been accessed, and also the secure array state change. Door and lock notifications can also be set up if you use our electronic locks. The events that can be observed are if a badge has been scanned or verified, if it hasn't been scanned or verified, also if a door opens or closes, if a lock opens or closes, and if a door opens longer than an alarm period. Now that we have a better understanding of thresholds, how these connect to notifications, the way these can be set up, and the critical and warning events we can select from, let's review the specific types of notifications we can use and how these are enabled. First, let's look at log entries or log notifications. Most likely, these are already set up by default in the routing section of your PDU, as shown in the Web GUI example on this slide. These can also be enabled via CLI and Bulk API, as shown on this slide. And our CLI and Bulk API manuals will include commands that you will need for enabling or disabling this type of notification. Next, we have the traps or SNMP notifications. Similarly, they can be enabled under routing. However, before doing so, we have to visit the SNMP sub-tab under settings to add the specific security level, host IP address information, and trap settings so that the feature is enabled. Once these settings are added and saved, you will see the trap routing section available for enabling or disabling. Traps can also be set up through CLI and Bulk API, and if you're working with CLI, make sure to use the config get command to verify what the current trap status is for your PDU, and then use config set to change the value from disabled to enabled. Similar to SNMP, we first need to visit the email sub-tab under settings and add the information and settings for your specific requirements for the email notifications. Make sure that the box that says enable email notification is selected, and then you can proceed to fill out the boxes with email, username, passwords, recipient information, and then make sure to save these settings. You will then see the email notifications column under routing available for enabling or disabling. And of course, these can also be set up via CLI and Bulk API. Our PDUs have a logging tab that provides an overview of events in the PDU. It also lets you export these logs and change any settings for this logging capability. The events provide information like time, date, the specific PDU, and events that have occurred and where it's coming from. Here we have an example of the export logs in the Web GUI, and these can be either downloaded to your device or transferred to a server. Finally, we have the log settings, which allow for more specific and customized event information transfer and storage. To learn more about notifications, you can visit our user manual under the notifications section in pages 41 to 42, under settings in pages 49 to 50, and login in pages 38 to 40. For CLI notification settings, please review config get and config set commands in pages 34 to 36 and the Appendix A on page 42. And for Bulk API, you can visit Appendix A, pages 53 to 55 and 59 to 62 to retrieve all the commands you will need.